Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another weekly fighting roundup. And so if you're new around here though, and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, of course, it's been a great week of fighting, probably one of the best we've had in a long time. And so I was quite excited to make this video, to be completely honest. And so yeah, let's get straight into it. Starting off with the boxing, of course. So Romero versus Davis, their purse bids have been postponed. Walton has joined Most Valuable Promotions. McGregor wants the Robles rematch. Davis has joined Golden Boy. Lopez versus Gonzalez. Zayas versus Valenzuela Jr. Ortiz, Conceição, Villa and Johnson will fight on the 15th September. Kitano won via TKO in round 2 versus Kawakami. Yamakawa won via TKO in round 2 versus Nakamura. Shinoda won via TKO in round 3 versus Kajitani. Iwashita won via TKO in round 4 versus Takahara. Takei won via KO in round 3 versus Baldonado. Imanaga won via split decision versus Marapu. Sakama won via TKO in round 8 versus Horikawa to become a Japanese Boxing Commission Youth Light Flyweight Champion. Ramirez won via TKO in round 5 versus Shimizu to remain a WBO World Featherweight Champion. That was a good, comfortable performance for Ramirez. Probably could have made it so he took a little bit less damage, but either way, it was a good performance from Ramirez, and of course managed to get a very good victory and got that prediction right. Inoue won via TKO in round 8 versus Fulton to become WBC and WBO World Super Bantamweight Champion. And what a great fight that was as well. For this week of boxing especially, it's been pound for pound greatness is what we've seen, and this was one of them, and in my opinion puts Inoue pound for pound number 1. I'll explain a bit more about why I've not put Crawford up there at the moment, but of course it's just my opinion, and like lots of people have said, it's so tight you can pretty much go either way, and you can't really argue it too much. But Inoue, what a great fight. People slandering Fulton afterwards saying he wasn't even that good is just bollocks. Like, it's just so untrue, because Fulton was a great fighter and I'm sure he's still going to have a great career afterwards, but Inoue is just that next kind of level up, and he did exactly what he had to do. He set up with the body shots and then went to the head when necessary, and it was a little bit of a feeling out process to start off with, but every time Inoue was first to the punch and he landed with the more power, had that more speed, and just did everything that Fulton did, just with that a little bit better. And it was such an impressive performance, rounded off by a great knockout as well. And I do just love watching Inoue fight, and yeah, I was in awe, to be completely honest, watching him fight and going through the gears and just being able to kind of batter him in the process, to be honest. But like I said, great performance. Fulton, I'm sure he's going to have a great career. Inoue probably will next fight Topias. Of course, Topias came in the ring. He's the other champion in the bantamweight division, and so that will probably be next in the super bantamweight division, I mean. But realistically, what he wins at, he says he wants to then defend it against either Casemiro or Neri, most probably. I don't hate them as options. I think he probably beats all of them, to be completely honest. I think the only time that possibly would be in like another 50-50 is when he goes up to featherweight, or if he goes up to featherweight. I think that's the only realistic position for him to then have really, really close fights on paper. And so I mean, that's credit to him. I think even them, a lot of the featherweights he does beat. If it is just down to what he's like going up in weight again, but he managed to go through this going up in weight with no problems whatsoever, and I respect him for wanting to kind of stick around at that weight, become undisputed again, and then defend it. And I respect that, and it's something which is good, and it seems like he is kind of setting up these big fights quickly and nicely and without too much of a problem, which is nice, especially as like certain fights take ages to make. And I mean, to be fair, the other big undisputed fight, what Crawford Spence, took 5 years to make, and so credit to Inoue for taking these big fights and for doing them in not too long of a process as well, and of course getting great performances in the process. McKenna is set to fight Esposito in September. Johnson has come out of retirement. Hatton will fight Ansel August 12th. Hitchens has called out Lopez. Purse bids have been called for Optai vs Riakporhe. Messina won via split decision versus Potorak. Rushton won via unanimous decision versus Tomat. Campbell won via split decision versus Kareem. Boot won via unanimous decision versus Thatcher to remain Australian super lightweight champion. Agbo Bullen won via majority decision versus Harris to remain Australian super welterweight champion. Eubank is set to fight Petition November 10th. Watson is set to fight Lalonde November 10th. Yard vs Summers, Noakes, O'Leary, Barney Smith, Taylor, Fletcher and Junior will fight September 23rd. Cully is training with McNally. Lidard and Courtney will fight August 12th. Clark vs Allen, Markey vs Moran, Heffron vs Cullen and Whitaker will fight September 2nd. Willis won via TK in round 2 vs Copeland. Girena won via unanimous decision vs Cantos. Donovan won via KO in round 2 vs Johnson. Gubkin won via unanimous decision vs Dozier. Townsend won via KO in round 2 vs Boone. Hadri Biaj won via unanimous decision vs Ruiz to remain a WBC International Super Welterweight Champion. Ben has been cleared by UCAD. That was a big bit of news. One which I suppose in this week of kind of big events, it kind of went under the radar a little bit, but congrats to Ben. I believe there's still like a month-long kind of process where they can revoke that UCAD, but either way, it seems like that is going to be the case, and hopefully now he can actually start getting fighting. And I do like Ben. I am a fan of Ben, and as long as he's clean and there's nothing going on, and from the scenes of it, he's got it cleared, so it's all right. And I'm not looking too much into it because I do just want to see him fight, and hopefully he will. Hopefully it'll be in England. Hopefully it'll be a big fight, and yeah. Moving on. Canelo is set to fight Charlo September 30th. Collazo will fight Diagan August 26th. Hearn's options for Ben are Brook, Taylor and Eubank Jr. Eubank Jr. I doubt. Brook could be an option. Taylor could be an option. Probably most likely be Brook in my opinion. I really want to see Taylor versus I forgot his name. Taylor versus Cattrall, that's his name. But to be fair, it seems like Cattrall's fighting Lipinets. Might be wrong. Probably thinking of somebody else. I think I've got it written down anyway. But yeah, options there. Moving on. Carrillo versus Pennington. Flores will fight September 7th. KSI versus Fury. And Paul will fight October 14th. That fight's finally been announced. And Logan Paul also back on that card as well. It's a entertaining one and should be a good card. Probably lined up to be the best Misfits card. And hopefully their undercard will be good. It'll be interesting to see who's Paul fighting. Kind of hope, to be completely honest, it's not Dylan Dennis. I'd rather see him fight somebody who's actually going to be interesting. And, well, somebody that's going to put up a better fight, in my opinion, and be a tough test for Paul. Haney is set to fight Prograis October 29th. So it seems like Haney's finally decided to move up. And I feel a bit bad for Stevenson, to be completely honest, because he's been campaigning for that and for that title shot. And it seems like he's going to have to, I suppose, get vacant shots, and it's not the end of the world, but it just means that he's never going to get that big Haney fight, or at least not for the moment. And I suppose there's always going to be options for Stevenson, and he's probably just going to have to go down a different route now. But of course, Haney vs Prograis is a massive fight. Murata won via stoppage in round 3 versus Centeno. Sheehy won via TK in round 3 versus Alfred. Benjamin Drew versus Langston. Albright won via majority decision versus Balderas. Polanco won via TK in round 5 versus Francis. Nova won via KO in round 3 versus Romero. Cortez won via stoppage in round 7 versus Martinez to become WBC USA Silver Super Featherweight Champion. Estrada won via unanimous decision versus Udica to remain WBA and WBC World Minimum Weight Champion. That was a great performance. Well, not really, to be completely honest, thinking about it. It was an average performance at best, I think it was a great performance from Udica. I think a lot of people underestimated her. Estrada, maybe not so much of a great performance. I think she was sitting at mid-range, and I think she does her best work there, but when she's there, she needs to use the jab more, and she just wasn't really utilising it, and so she was sat at mid-range, allowing Udica to just kind of land big shots on her. Her guard is never really that good, Estrada's, but normally she can use it with a movement as well, but there was times where she was just not really moving, and there was times in the later rounds where she was, and times in the mid rounds, possibly even earlier rounds, where she just wasn't, and she was getting caught quite a lot. I think she was the one that was more active, and that was not really ever going to be a surprise. But 97-93, I believe the scorecards were. Bit wide. Probably could have seen a split decision, but either way, credit to Udica. I don't think her stock goes down for losing that fight, but I think there's an argument for Estrada winning that, an argument for Udica winning that. Wouldn't even hate a rematch, but seems like Estrada's going for Valle next. Hopefully that fight happens. Of course, it's a huge fight and would be a good fight, and just kind of realistically has to be the one that happens at this point, because otherwise you don't want to see either of them lose again, or well, in Vai's case again, Estrada's case in the first place, and then that fight kind of be off because they just can't make an agreement. But hopefully they can make an agreement, and it does happen. Jones Jr. is no longer coaching Eubank Jr. Fleming has retired. Wet versus Grace was cancelled. Smith won via points versus Barab Baz. Brown won via stoppage in round 2 versus Darnell. Itoma won via points versus Espindola. Akbar won via TK in round 1 versus Velechkov. Big up to Akbar, congratulations. He's a great guy, I had him on the channel, of course. Fail won via TK in round 6 versus Ambomo. Cooper won via points versus Zamora. James won via unanimous decision versus Moorcroft to become WBO European Welterweight Champion. Davis won via TK in round 1 versus Cunningham to become British, EBU European, WBC and WBO International Super Bantamweight Champion. That was a very good performance from Davis, did exactly what he had to do early on. Cunningham just doesn't have the chin anymore, doesn't really have the ability, wouldn't even really hate if he... Well, I feel like he has the ability, but just can't take a punch like anymore like he used to. I feel like he's been knocked out and destroyed, I suppose, a few too many times now, and so yeah, I just think his best days are definitely past him. Wouldn't hate retirement, but otherwise he's just going to be even more of a gatekeeper for lower ranked fighters. And I do, for Davis though, do want to see McCann vs Davis next. Of course McCann has to get through Beluta, but I think that would be a great fight. And a tough one to call, to be completely honest. Cholet won via TK in round 2 versus Portaez. Prather won via unanimous decision versus Ventura. Villoria won via TK in round 4 versus Borgaro. Zamora won via unanimous decision versus Buzolin. Reyes won via TK in round 4 versus Palicite. Nelson won via unanimous decision versus Montgomery. Tellez won via TK in round 3 versus Garcia. Santiago won via unanimous decision versus Denaire to become WBC World Bantamweight Champion. I think I got that one right. I did a prediction for that a little while before the fight, before I realised it got moved on to this card. Cruz won via split decision versus Cabrera to become a WBC Silver and WBO Latino Lightweight Champion. And Crawford won via TK in round 9 versus Spence to become IBF, WBA Super, WEC and WBO World Welterweight Champion. And what a great performance from Crawford as well. That's what I'm saying, 2 pound for pound best, great pound for pound week of action, and like I said, great performance. Crawford did exactly what he had to do. Maybe Spence wasn't at his best in his performance. I got the prediction wrong. I did it over on the Moboxing No Problem channel. Go check that out if you have not done so already. But yeah, I got it wrong. I felt like I just kind of thought that Spence would have the movement, would have the kind of heart, would be able to just kind of outpunch Crawford. But Crawford's countering ability and just accuracy and pace and just abilities to just wear through anything that Spence had, and just to like very quickly just break him down is so impressive, and was that similar to what Inoue did in the fact of just like being able to wear them down and just really show their class, and by the ninth round be able to get him out of there. Great performance. Crawford, one of the best, probably if not the best, and in my opinion, like I said, probably second pound for pound. There's more of an argument for him to be first or second. I don't care what people say in their lists at the moment. It's everybody has their own opinion, and it's completely understandable. But they probably will end up rematching again. I think, and I said over on my prediction, that if either of these were to lose quite convincingly, and Spence did, if he was to then come back and win in the rematch, then I feel like that could be more credit than winning in the first place. And so if Spence manages to come back, I know he's going to be a massive underdog now after that performance, and manage to win against Crawford in the rematch, then would be setting up the trilogy, and would be amazingly good trilogy as well. But of course Crawford, amazing, like it's so hard to see him lose at the moment, and coming out with Eminem as well. Who's gonna lose if you come out walking out with Eminem? That was sick. And so yeah, it would be interesting to see how long it takes for the rematch to be made, and hopefully not 5 years. Moving on, Rankin is set to fight Kozin. Beterbiev versus Smith has been cancelled or postponed due to Beterbiev getting some sort of, I believe, dental injury or something. I don't know. But that's all the boxing news. Moving on now to the UFC news. Pulver has been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Edwards is set to fight Covington November 11th. Thompson vs Pereira was cancelled due to Pereira missing weight. Tuivasa will fight Volkov September 10th. Holland won by submission in round 1 versus Chiesa. Green won by submission in round 3 versus Ferguson. So sad to see just Ferguson getting battered and just really not what he used to be, and that stoppage was very sad to see. Lewis won via KO in round 1 versus De Lima. That was a fun fight. Great fight for Lewis. Did pretty much what he had to do and just walked through him, and it was entertaining. Pereira won via decision versus Blachowicz. Wasn't the best performance from either of them, to be completely honest, but Pereira won. I said he'd win, got that right. Be interesting to see where he will kind of finish off and when he does get to this point in this division, but I was hearing rumours of Adesanya possibly fighting Prochazka for the light heavyweight title. Don't know if that's going to be the case, but something that was interesting that I saw, Pereira, I believe, weighed in, I think, 206 pounds, came back in at about 228, 230 pounds, something like that, something crazy like that. And so it really does kind of ask the question, how do you even make middleweight? I don't think he will ever go back down to middleweight, but it does show how messed up and how big the kind of weight divisions can be, especially after rehydrating. Gaethje won via KO in round 2 versus Poirier to become BMF UFC champion. And yeah, that was a great fight for Gaethje. Did exactly what he had to do. I liked how he wasn't too reckless, to be completely honest. And maybe when I was saying in my prediction that Poirier kind of didn't want to be on the ropes or on the cage, he wasn't. But Gaethje was just kind of that more patient, more accurate, picked his shots nicer. Just something that you've not really seen from Gaethje too much recently. And it's was not getting hit as much as what he normally does. And it was nice. He did get caught with a couple shots from Poirier, but it was nice to see him not just getting battered and having a bit more control about himself. And of course that managed to set up that kind of devastating victory and that devastating KO shot. And yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. Like if you did, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.